Hi, I'm Michael with Trackworthy.
And Steve here, Cars with Steve.
So we have two videos for you today. Mine is what it's like to live with this car as a daily driver. I happen to own a Scion FR-S, so I own the first generation, and as you know, this is the second generation.
The technical walk around where I go over all the different details, the bells and whistles, things like that, you're going to be able to find on my channel.
But to know what this car is like to live with on a daily basis, let's start the video now. The Toyota GT86 made its debut at the 2011 Tokyo Motor Show. Jeremy Clarkson, one of the former co-hosts of Top Gear, named it as the Car of the Year in 2012. And because of that, I bought a 2013 Scion FR-S, as it was badged back then in North America. F for front engine, R for rear-wheel drive, S for sport. The youth-oriented Scion brand was scrapped by Toyota in 2016. The first and second generation 86s and Subaru BRZs or BRZs have all been built by Subaru in Japan. The original 86 had Subaru's 2-liter naturally aspirated flat 4-cylinder engine with 200 horsepower and just 151 pound-feet of torque. Being underpowered was a very common criticism of the first-gen car. The 4-cylinder boxer engine in this 2022 GR, as in Gazoo Racing 86, has a 20% displacement increase from 2 liters to 2.4 liters. Horsepower is up by 14% from 200 to 228 at 7,000 RPM. And perhaps most thankfully, torque is up 22% from 151 to 184 pound-feet, which arrives at 3,700 RPM. Thankfully, the weight increase from generation to generation is minimal, with an increase of just 53 pounds for the manual and 62 pounds for the automatic. The first generation car had an aluminum hood. This car retains that aluminum hood and gets an aluminum roof and fenders, which helps lower the weight and lower the center of gravity, which contributes to improved handling. More power and roughly the same weight as the first-gen car results in a drop of about half a second from 0 to 60, which takes around 6 seconds for the manual and 6.6 seconds for the automatic, according to Toyota. The increase in torque and horsepower makes this car feel even more nimble than the first-generation car. And we were fortunate enough to drive a pre-production GR86 at one of the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park racetracks. The car we drove there was equipped with a 6-speed manual transmission, which is the only way we would equip this car. The GR86 and BRZ do a great job of delivering fun, back-to-basics driving enjoyment, which is really enhanced when equipped with a 6-speed manual transmission. There's nothing wrong with this automatic, and the paddle shifters, it's all good. It's just more fun and engaging when you have 3 pedals on the floor and a really nice shifting manual transmission. And Canadian buyers obviously agree. According to Toyota Canada, 70% of all GR86s sold in 2021 and so far this year have been purchased with manual transmissions, which is a really great thing to hear. The 86's handling has always been its raison d'etre. And this second-generation sports coupe takes that one step further. The torsional rigidity of this body has been improved by 50% over the first generation, contributing to the car's increased handling capabilities. Out on the racetrack, the GR86 provides the driver with a very solid, predictable, and rewarding lapping experience. The brakes on the cars that we've driven have been very firm and require a lot of brake pressure, which we like, kind of makes it feel race car-like. It has 2-piston steel floating caliper front disc brakes with 11.6-inch vented rotors and a 1-piston steel floating caliper rear disc brakes with 11.4-inch solid rotors. Regarding its styling, that's in the eye of the beholder. So choosing between the GR86 and the BRZ comes down to personal preference and likely some brand loyalty and really a test drive because each car does handle differently. We happen to really like this car's revised exterior styling. This car is very small, and that's great for responsive handling, but it's not so great when you're sandwiched between tractor trailers on the highway. Even reaching up to get your coffee at a drive-thru is a bit of a challenge. And guess what? Your extra large coffee makes it through the window, but with not a lot of room to spare. We're shooting this video parked here because this car is loud. At cruising speed, we measured more than 80 decibels on the highway, with a fair amount of road noise. When this car is equipped with an automatic transmission, you get intelligent safety features, including pre-collision braking, full-speed dynamic radar cruise control, pre-collision throttle management, lane departure warning, sway warning, lead vehicle start alert, all of which is great and really useful. The adaptive cruise control is great on the highway. So you have to be more alert and engaged if you're driving a 6-speed manual, which isn't a bad thing. Being more alert and paying more attention to what you're doing is definitely a good thing. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are standard, and the opening sequence of the boxer engines, pistons spinning around is really fun. But the graphics on this 7-inch TFT screen are pretty basic and fairly old school looking for this second generation car. Especially if you hit this button. The station list looks like something from, you guys wouldn't even know what I'm talking about, like the DOS era. I mean, it's just a little bit surprising that, you know, a company like Toyota/Subaru can't come up with something better than that. But anyway, it's not, that's not why you buy this car. You buy this car for its fun and handling. It's just that you would hope that this would just be a little bit more advanced than it is. It is a step up from the first generation, but it's, like I said, pretty old school looking. With gas prices going through the roof, engine start-stop would have been probably useful to help us save some fuel. We've been averaging about 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers, or around 31 miles per gallon on city and highway driving. If you set the temperature to low, every time you start this car, it defaults to recirculate. So if you want fresh air, you have to hit this switch every single time you hit the start-stop button. So not really sure why Toyota thinks that we should be breathing our own air, because I definitely like to drive with the windows down, the air conditioning off, and it's set on low and get some fresh air in here. So every single time I drove the car, start it up, get rid of the recirculate, lower the windows, and off you go. Not the end of the world, but kind of bizarre. For most people's daily commute, I'm going to assume you want to know your distance to empty up here and have your Android Auto or Apple CarPlay navigation map here. And each time you adjust the volume, either here or on here, it displays that here and displays that here. But each time you change the radio station, you have no idea where you are. You've got to go back here and go back to radio, or you've got to change this up here and go back to radio, and then you don't have your distance to empty. So twice you get to understand what number volume you're at, sort of who cares. But when you change the radio station, you just have to guess. Again, not the end of the world, but just a little bit strange. This car does a great job of proving that you don't have to spend a fortune and put 500, 600, or 700 horsepower under the hood to have a fun handling performance car. Jeremy Clarkson has driven every multi-million-dollar hypercar in existence, and in 2012, he chose a car with 200 horsepower and just 151 pound-feet of torque as his car of the year. That speaks volumes about these cars, which start at just over $31,000 in Canada and $28,000 in the United States. These GR86s are really fun cars, and the second generation car is even more fun than the first. And I know because I speak from experience, having been an owner of a first generation 86. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons. Drive safely, and we'll see you soon. Let's get this car started up. And because it's on low, I have to change the recirculate. No big deal. And off we go.